This is Vidya with Verity, and I'm Verity Jo Coonan, breathwork facilitator and founder of Vidya Breathwork, and someone who has, for over a decade, sat with people in the realest, rawest moments of their lives. This show is for the ones who are ready to go all the way into the real story, the real body, the real work. Raw conversations, honest truth, and the tools that actually create change. Let's go. Let's breathe. Just breathe. Take a breath. Big inhale. And a really cleansing exhale. Nice. There's a version of rock bottom that we don't discuss often. It doesn't look like losing everything. It doesn't look like losing the person you love. It doesn't look like a crisis. From the outside, things might actually look fine. Maybe even good. But on the inside, there's this quiet, disorientated feeling that you don't quite know who you are anymore. The things that used to motivate you don't land the same way. The goals you're working towards feel strangely hollow or pointless. The version of yourself you've been performing, the capable one, the put together one, the one who has it all handled, starts to feel like a costume that you're tired of wearing or a mask. And if that's where you are, this messy middle, as I like to call it, welcome. You are not falling apart. You're just on the other side of a growth leap. And this is the episode I wish I had when I was in it. I'm Verity, and this is Vidya with Verity. This is about identity collapse. Before we can talk about collapse, we need to be really clear on what identity actually is. Because I think most of us are working with a definition that's maybe too small. Identity is not part of your job title or your relationship status or the story you tell at dinner parties. What is it, an elevator pitch? Identity is the nervous system's model of self. It's the set of predictions your brain makes about who you are, what you're capable of, what you deserve, how the world responds to you, and what is safe to want. And like all predictions the brain makes, it runs on a pattern. Your nervous system is built from identity, from everything that's happened to you. The praise you received when you were younger, the praise you didn't receive, the moments you felt seen and the moments you felt completely invisible, the version of yourself that was celebrated and the version that was quietly corrected. That identity is not the truth of you. It's a map. And like any map, it's useful until the territory changes. When you grow, like really grow, the kind that involves healing, regulation, and actually changing the patterns, the territory changes. And suddenly that old map doesn't match where you are. That mismatch, that disorientation, that not quite fitting feeling, that is identity collapse. And it's a sign that the map is being redrawn. People will describe identity collapse in a lot of different ways, but there are a few experiences that come up again and again. There's the hollowness, empty feeling. The goals, the achievements that used to feel meaningful start to feel like somebody else's idea of a good life. You hit a milestone, the promotion, the relationship, the numbers in your bank account, and instead of the satisfaction you expected, there's a flatness. Like, is this? There's the restlessness, that deep, often inarticulate sense that something needs to change, but you don't actually know what it is yet. You can't name it. You just know that the life you've been building is starting to feel like it's closing in on you. Like the room is too small. There is a loss of appetite, not always for food, but the things that used to excite you. the ambitions, the social circles, the habits, they lose their pull. And that loss can sometimes feel frightening because those things are part of who you knew you were. And then there's the grief because identity collapse, even when it's the most important thing that has ever happened to you, it still involves loss. You're grieving a version of yourself, and grief, as we know, does not ask for permission and is a roller coaster for you. Identity collapse is so necessary. It also can feel very threatening for your body because your nervous system is not distinguishing between physical threat and identity threat. The same survival circuits that fire when you are in a physical danger, when your sense of self is destabilized, the same survival circuits that fire when you are in physical danger, when your sense of self is disabled. Because to the nervous system, knowing who you are, having a stable, predictable model of self is a form of safety. So when you're going through this process, your body is feeling like it's under threat. This is why growth that changes you at such a deep level can trigger symptoms that look like anxiety or depression. And it's not that something's wrong. It's that the nervous system is reading the dissociation of old self, the old identity as a threat. It's trying to protect you from an experience it doesn't have the language to understand because it's actually expansion. But it's also, and this is why people self-sabotage at the edge of real change, not because they don't want it, but because the nervous system is doing its job, and it pulls them back to the known, even when the known is the version of themselves that no longer fits. Self-sabotage is like a self-fulfilling prophecy so that you don't have to do the thing. The work is not to override that pull. The work is to make the nervous system feel safe enough to let go of the old map. And that requires regulation, the very thing that Vidya is. And I talk about nonstop. So I want to say this with clarity because I think it needs to be said clearly. The identity collapse is not what happens before the growth leap. It is the growth leap. They are not sequential. They are the same event. When I look back at the most significant shifts in my own life and in the lives of people I've sat with and students I've had, what I see is that the period of not knowing, of disorientation, or feeling like the ground has disappeared beneath you, that was not the darkness before the dawn. The dissolution was the transformation happening in real time. And we always want these profound transformations, and yet when they happen, all we generally want to do is get out of them. So it's learning to sit in it. The version of you that's emerging doesn't really have a clear shape yet. It doesn't have a language, doesn't have a pitch. It can't be explained at a dinner party. So when someone asks you that question, your whole body goes, do I be honest? Do I say good? And I'm not a person to say good when I don't feel good. So generally you'll get the whole story. And sometimes that ambiguity can and is deeply uncomfortable for people who are used to knowing who they are and being able to articulate it. But the ambiguity is where the new identity is being formed. So in the not knowing, something is being allowed to exist that previously wasn't before. Some part of you was too quiet, too inconvenient, too unfamiliar to the old map to finally get. Now it's finally getting space. Trust the not knowing. It has a direction even when you can't see it. So that uncomfortable feeling or that dread when someone's going to ask you, how are you? Lean in and be honest. Say, I don't have an answer for that right now. Or tell them exactly how you're feeling. because at some point they too may be lucky enough to go through this as well. So what do you do when you're in it? First, do not make any major life decisions from the inside of your collapse. This is not the time to blow up your relationship, quit your job, reinvent your entire life in a weekend, although it can be fun. The nervous system is in a reorganization phase. Decisions that are made from this state start to replicate the old patterns, but just sometimes in a new packaging, rather than building something genuinely new. So wait for the ground to feel stable before you build on it. We are all about building foundations at the moment and enjoying that process. Second, stay in the body. Identity collapse lives in the mind, in the brain. The stories, the spirals, the who am I, what does this mean? The body is the anchor. Breathwork, movement, yoga, Pilates, time in nature, a walk, anything that brings you back into a physical sensation interrupts the mental loop and gives the system somewhere really safe to land. Third, find one person who can hold the ambiguity with you. Not someone who will rush you back to certainty, not someone who needs you to be okay, someone who can sit with you in the not knowing without flinching. That co-regulation is worth more than any amount of self-help content right now. This is not a time to do more. Write it down, record a voice note, tell someone, because that version of you that comes through the other side will want to know what it cost. And you will want to remember that you survived it, that you chose to keep moving forward, that you were brave enough, that had enough courage to not know for a while. And if you need support in any of this, jump in our app. We have a beautiful community of humans that love to hold space and listen. None of this you need to go it alone. It's not about walking through the battlefield by yourself. We're not about that. I'm not. It can be a fun and laughing experience. Next week, we'll go into something that sits right alongside this. What happens to your relationship when you grow? Why people who knew the old version of you can feel like strangers, and why it can be one of the most painful and least talked about parts of healing. Share this if it found you at just the right time. To stay connected during the week, follow Instagram, Verity Jo Coonan, or I'll see you next week on here. Ciao. That's it for this week. If something landed for you, please share it with someone who's genuinely ready to hear this. And I would love if you have 2 minutes to leave us a review on wherever you listen to your podcast, because this genuinely helps people find us. You can find me on Instagram at Verity Jo Coonan. And if you're interested in becoming a breathwork facilitator or joining the Vidya app, I'll link it all in the show notes. See you soon.